Hey, what's up, Crypto Army? I'm Travis, your crypto newbie, bringing my experiences so you don't have to learn things the hard way. Just a reminder, I'm not a financial advisor, and none of my content should be viewed as financial advice. If you like my content offers, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and turn on notifications. It really helps get the content to others, and it also kind of helps grow the token. And today we're talking about Nobility token. So if you like Nobility token, you might want to hit the subscribe button, like the video, and watch it and try to engage, because the YouTube algorithm uses that information to push it to others that might like it as well, which means that others see the content, potentially invest a lot, which results in a price increase, volume, and reflections. And for that person to also make a lot of money off of an Nobility token, just like you are. So that's kind of how the YouTube algorithm works. So my recommendation is to find as many YouTube content creators as you can, like, subscribe, watch their content, and engage, because it's going to help you in the long run for this project. That's how YouTube works, if you didn't already know that. So that's what I recommend you do. And that might seem a little self-serving on my part, because I'm a YouTube content creator and you're watching my video, and you'd be right. But you also benefit from it as well. So it kind of helps both of us. As I said, I'm going to cover Nobility token today. We're going to take a look at the fundamentals of this project. And if you're new to my fundamental analysis, just keep in mind, it's a risk assessment. I'm not here to tell you whether this is a good investment or a bad investment. That's not my job. My job is to lay out some of the risk associated with the project to help you make a better decision. And I like this project. Now, I don't have any money to invest, but as soon as I do, I'm probably going to invest into this project because I like the concept, and I don't have anything quite like it in my portfolio. And I try to diversify my portfolio, try different things, different projects, different ideas. And this is one of those, because this is an esports utility token. And I don't know of many other options out there. And this one has a really solid team, from what I can tell, and a really solid project. So let's jump right in. Now, first off, the website. It looks phenomenal. Now, full disclosure, in preparation for this video, I've been talking with the CEO of this project. He had told me that they were working on a redesign for their website, so I actually held off on doing this. I planned on doing this last week. I held off just so I could give you all the most up-to-date information, and I really like what they did with the website. It really does look good. They did an awesome job, and I don't have enough good things to say about the website design, because they did a really phenomenal job. And I had some issues with the last version, and some of the features that they had on there didn't quite work like they're supposed to, but apparently they were switching over some of the things that they were doing, so that's why. So I've really got nothing bad to say about the website. It looks phenomenal, and I think you'll agree they did a really good job. So the main thing with the website and why I focus on this is the first thing most investors are going to look at. They're going to go jump on the website and read about the project. So you, as a project developer, CEO, or whatever you want to call it, for the team behind this project, your goal is to make sure they stay and that they explore. Now, if you get to a page and it's ugly, it's got spelling, it's got grammar, it's got a whole bunch of issues, the graphics don't make sense, it's a template website that you didn't make your own, it's going to turn off potential investors. That isn't the case with this website. I have a feeling investors are going to come to this website and say, how do I buy? And where do I buy? Which is what we as investors in these projects want to have happen. So that's why I talk about the website. And look at the website. It looks good. So let's jump in. Now, I like to frequently ask questions. We'll look at that in a little bit, because that's not on their main page. The rest of these buttons basically just navigate you around the main page here. So if you want to quickly find the how to buy, that would be a good way to do it. Same thing with tokenomics and same thing with the roadmap. We're just going to navigate down this website, and we'll take a look at the dashboard at the end, but let's keep going. Now, I like that they have the CoinMarketCap and the CoinGecko links directly here. Same thing with the BSC scan. We'll talk a little bit about this here in a second. And then, what is the Nobility token? They did a really good job of explaining what this token is, because it's not necessarily a straightforward concept. This one actually requires you to sit down and ask the question, okay, so what are they actually trying to do with this token? Because they actually have quite a lot going on. Nobility is revolutionizing the multi-billion-dollar esports gaming industry by innovating the use of blockchain technology combined with the advantages of decentralized finance. So they are organizing and providing tournaments with large prize pools, so keep that in mind, introducing games into the community, so game developer, and providing passive income through a stable Binance pegged USD. And I would argue there's actually more to it when we start getting into some of the roadmap items. But in a nutshell, think esports, tournaments, and game developer, because that's kind of the big aspects of what they're talking about with this project. And again, what other projects are you aware of that are in the esports realm or in the tournament style? And I've started to see a little bit of the tournament style stuff coming up, but this was a little bit different than what those are offering. So now the tokenomics, 7% Binance pegged USD back to you, 2% to the liquidity pool, and 2% to the use wallet. Now, what is use wallet? So think of the use wallet as kind of like that everything wallet. It funds the tournaments, it does the marketing, it does the development, it does a little bit of everything. It's whatever the development team needed to do, because tournaments aren't free. There's got to be winnings involved in a tournament. That's what that is. And everybody's familiar with liquidity pools at this point, I'm sure. That's what essentially makes everything kind of work. And if you don't have enough going to the liquidity pool, you can have effectively a dead token. So you got to be careful with that. 2% is actually kind of low, at least initially. A lot of projects do pretty well with 2% over time, but it can be an issue for the first launch of a project having just 2%. But this project retains ownership of their contract, so it's possible that they can do some flexibility with the use wallet and liquidity pool to fix any kind of liquidity issues they have. So what are some of the things you'll run into if there's not enough money in the liquidity pool? You won't be able to buy, and you might not be able to sell. So it's kind of important when you're talking about crypto, is the ability to buy and sell. And if they have a huge sell-off and there's not enough liquidity in there, it can actually kill the token. So it's very important that they have enough going to liquidity. I can't say whether this is enough or not, but that's always the concern, so that's why I bring it up. They've got the ability to control some of this, so they can fix some of it. They've got 100 billion in total supply. They burned 40.3% as the initial burn. Again, you didn't see any kind of a burn mechanism up there. That was their initial. It's not clear whether there's going to be more burns down the road. I don't know that you necessarily need it, though. If you burned almost half of 100 billion, that might be enough. And then the liquidity is locked for 1 year. The tracker, and I actually really like their tracker. It's not the best one I've seen out there, but it's not the worst one I've seen out there. It's actually got pretty good information, and we'll take a look at that in a little bit. But real-time portfolio tracking platform, Binance pegged USDs, NFTs, the live chart market data, iOS and Android support. Now if we click on Noble Knights over here, NFT marketplace, NFT collection, a metaverse, and gamification. So kind of what we were just talking about early on. And then obviously their community focus with the tournaments and the AMAs that they do. And I will be doing an AMA cover they've got a joint AMA coming up with Gallon Token. That's why I wanted to get this out there, because there's another project that I was covering that they did the same thing with. And I didn't feel comfortable covering it because I hadn't done this for Nobility, because it's really a Nobility AMA that brings in another project that can talk about it, and it gets exposure to basically both communities for the project, which can help the growth of both projects, because it exposes both communities to the projects, which is a great idea. And I wish that more projects were doing that, because good projects should kind of stick together, because there's a lot of really bad projects out there. Now, how to buy is phenomenal. I love it. I wish more projects did how to buys, because it walks you through Trust Wallet or MetaMask. Hey, those are the two best options. And then what the process is. And it's really good. I mean, it's not necessarily a video that walks you through the entire process, but you don't necessarily need a video. Here's what my recommendation is. When you're talking about a brand new holder to the crypto space, and most of us have been in this for a while, so it's hard to remember what it was like when we first got into it. But imagine you're brand new to the crypto space. If you were following these instructions, would it be sufficient? That's where the value of a video really comes in. And most projects don't have even this, but if you really want to take it to that next level, you put a video. Talk to somebody that's never invested in crypto and get their opinion. You know, there used to be these panels that you put this stuff in front of, and they do a quality check, and they would identify their issues, and you could put a panel of new people, and it doesn't take that much effort. There's very few people that have invested in crypto these days. It's like 5% of the population has invested in crypto. Put it in front of them. See how easy it is for them to execute based off of this, and then put it in front of them a video and see which one works better. Because the idea behind all of this is to get more holders and to grow the project. And that's the best way to do it. So you make sure that you make it as easy as possible. And they're attempting to do that. And they've done a really good job as far as this. But that would be my recommendation for how to make it a little bit better. Is just add a video. Keep this on there. Just, hey, here's the video tutorial on how to do the exact same thing. All right, so let's take a look at the roadmap, because the roadmap has a lot going on for it. I'm not going to go through this entire roadmap. It's just too much. Let's scroll down a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. This is a good exercise in reading skills to go through this. As you can see, it just keeps going. That is a very in-depth roadmap. And it's phenomenal because they've got phases, they've got quarters, and they've got it broken down by different aspects of the project. So as you can see, there's the token piece of it. Then you can see there's the Noble Knights piece of it. And then you got the esports portion of it. So Noble Knights think NFTs and gaming. And then esports think those tournaments. Let's take a look at the Nobility token. And the first thing up is you can see they're planning on building a blockchain. A use-specific blockchain is really the way to look at what they're trying to do. A testnet. If you didn't know it, blockchains, you really want to have a testnet. I've just got done talking about another project on this channel a few minutes ago, and we haven't heard anything about a testnet for a blockchain, and that should be a big concern because it takes time. And as you can see, January to March of 2022 is testnet. And if we go down here, we're still not out of testnet. And if we keep going down, we're all the way into July, and then we see mainnet. So you're talking a 6-month testnet, which is on par, actually. Some testnets will go for a year to make sure that everything's good on the blockchain, because it's really important that the blockchain not have any issues. Now let's keep going down here. So you can see there's version 3 of the token, and that makes sense because if you're doing a blockchain, you probably need to do some different things with the contract. Expect a lot over the next year when it comes to the blockchain and the token development. Now, it wasn't clear to me whether they're going to have a token that's specific to the blockchain that's different than the Nobility token, because it talks about an ICO up here. And I've asked this question from the team because it talks about this ICO right here. That usually implies that there's going to be another token specific to the blockchain. So more to come with that. As soon as I have an update, I'll try to do a quick update on this token. I like the idea behind this one. I'm going to try to cover this one as much as I can. Now let's go ahead and jump into Noble Knights. And here we've got NFT minting. So as you can see, there's going to be 2,222 whitelist passes, and there's going to be 4,444 Noble Knights available in total. And then we start getting into the battle site, which is kind of interesting. And they put a lot of detail into how all of this stuff is going to work. But phase 3 is very interesting from the integration with Sandbox and Decentraland. So they're going to essentially buy plots of land and develop them out in those ecosystems. So again, I said there's a lot going on with this project. It's worth checking out because I haven't covered any other projects on this channel even remotely close to what this project is offering. So this is a very interesting project. I'm not going to go through all 5 phases for this because it's a lot of information. I highly recommend you go through it because they provide a lot of good information, from merchandise to Merlin's Purge to the Metaverse, Decentraland and Sandbox, to just the NFTs and the battle. There's a lot of information on here. They've got a lot going on in this project and a lot of utility. And then we've got the esports portion of it. Now, initially I wanted to kind of hold off. When I got exposed to this project a while back, I actually started doing the fundamental analysis probably about 3 weeks ago. I started looking at this when that other project was doing their joint thing with the AMA. And The problem I kept coming into is I really want to see what the tournament looks like and how it's run and how they're broadcasting it. And I couldn't find any YouTube videos that went over it, which kind of talks a little bit about what they're trying to build, because they actually plan on building that sort of a platform to be able to live stream it, essentially, is kind of what I got from it. The streaming platform will be an important supplemental product for the esports arenas being constructed. They acknowledged that there's a requirement for some sort of a broadcast technology for the tournaments, because you would want to be able to watch them. And potentially you could be following specific teams or competitors and you want to see how they're doing, and you might want to watch it later on if you miss it. That was interesting all by itself. It'd be interesting to see if they launch something specific to their blockchain or if they use another resource for it. So I'm kind of curious to see what that turns into long term. But I'm going to try to cover some of their tournaments as well on this channel. I'm not a big gamer, but I think it would be interesting to see what the process is and how things work for their tournaments. Now that's pretty much it for their main website. Let's go back up to the top here. So let's take a look at the dashboard. So on the dashboard, you've got a lot of really good options, and you'll see the format's similar to a couple other ones we've looked at on this channel. What I liked are some of these other things. So you can actually use their reflection calculator and figure out kind of what you're going to get, but they've also got an investment calculator, and then they got a reflections tracker where you just type in your address and you can see what kind of reflections you've been getting. Again, these are all great options. I really like how they did this. And then they've got the integrations here with all the social media. It's a really well designed dashboard. It's really nice. I really enjoyed this. Plus you got all the price data for Nobility. You've got all the volume, all the information that I'm looking for when I do my fundamental analysis. It's all right here. So it's great information. It's a great dashboard. Now up at the top here, if you click on the buy now, you actually find a swap. And it's got a buy BNB button already here, along with the ability to swap. So it makes it really, really easy to do everything right here from this page. And I like that because this project isn't that old and they've already added this capability. That's really awesome that they got this already here ready to go. Now back on their main site here, we can see CertIC and we can see tech rate. Now when you click on these, you don't find Nobility token. So there is no audit that's currently done for Nobility token, which this project's been out for a while, so you would kind of expect that they've already had at least one audit done, and they don't, which is a concern. That's a high risk aspect to this project. Now again, it's kind of mitigated because it has been out for kind of a while, but there's no guarantees that there isn't a problem here that wouldn't allow somebody to drain all the liquidity out of it, for example, or to exploit a loophole in the contract to drain it completely of all of its funds. And these things happen. I've been invested in projects that didn't have a security audit and I lost all my money. That's why I put a lot of emphasis on the security aspect to these tokens, because that can happen. And it happens all the time. I know that they plan on doing an audit, but they really should get at least some audit done just to make sure that there aren't any issues with the token that could potentially result in everybody losing all their money. So that's kind of a big concern. It's one of the big two concerns I have with most projects is either the audit and doxing. Now talking with people on Discord, they indicated that they thought an audit was done, but as you could see on the website, there's no information about an audit. Unfortunately, I can't give them credit for an audit when there isn't one that I can look at. And I tried doing some Google searches to find one and it didn't pop up. And I went to both of these and neither one of them I could find an audit. And CertIC's got a pretty user-friendly search option. Tech rate's a little harder. You got to go through the list or do Control F to try to find it. And I couldn't find it. So I don't see any evidence of an audit, so I can't give it credit for having any audit done, unfortunately. Now, the other big thing that you probably didn't see here is the team. Now, I did send a message to Kyle, the CEO of this project, and said, you took off your doxing when you came out with the new website. That's kind of the only big complaint I got about the website. It looks great, but there are a lot of people that are going to be concerned if they don't see a doxed team. And I see this all the time, especially recently, in Discords and Telegrams. that people want to see who they're investing with, and they should be able to. And full disclosure for Nobility, they had that on the previous version of the website. So they really should bring that back, because that's what people are looking for. They're looking for two things: a security audit and a Doxxed team. Now, this team is Doxxed. You just can't see it on their current website, but I was looking at it just a couple days ago, and they had the team Doxxed. They're Doxxed. It's just not on their current website, but they really need to put that on there, because people aren't going to go looking at YouTube videos. They're not going to go looking at Telegrams. They're not necessarily going to go look at Discord. They're going to go to the website, and they're going to make their decision on whether to continue to look into this project based solely off the website for the vast majority of investors. And having a Doxxed team goes a long way towards continuing that research into the project, because they're looking for those two things. Some investors might come to the website and see TechRate and Certic and just assume that they're there and never actually click on the buttons. They're not there. And maybe they're supposed to be there, but they're not. They're also going to go looking for the Doxxed team, and that's definitely not here either. So that would be my recommendation, is to put that team back on here so that it's Doxxed. That way there's no confusion about whether this is the Doxxed team or not, because there are a lot of investors that won't invest in a project that it doesn't have a Doxxed team. So they're going to just keep looking at other projects. You might get them to invest a little bit, and you might even get them to actually go into Discord and Telegram and ask the question. Now, one other thing that we always look for is a white paper. And you didn't see a white paper on this website either. Neither did I. And I didn't see a Litepaper on this website. And I actually didn't see that on the previous website either, but there is a Litepaper, and the Discord community was able to send me the link for that. And it's a Litepaper. It's not a white paper, so it's very minimal on the information, but it exists. I would say that because it's based off of the old website and some of the old information, it's definitely not up to date, but at least it exists. And there's reference to a white paper being updated in the future on the roadmap. They have a plan to come out with a white paper, because again, a lot of people look for this as well, especially on new projects. It's less important for projects that have been around for a while, but right now they kind of need a white paper, even if it just says all the same information that's on their website. My recommendation is always to add a little bit more than what's on the website, go into more detail, answer more questions, because people like me that like to read about the project like going to the white papers so I can learn more detail about it. But even if it just has what's on the website, some people just like to read this way versus looking at a website. So you kind of hit multiple different perspectives on what people are looking for, and that's kind of the point, is to attract as many investors from varying backgrounds as you can. So how's price look for this project? And right now, it's not too bad. It's actually down a little bit from when I first started looking into it, so it's probably a good time to invest because the price is down a little. And you can see it hasn't been around for very long. We're only talking a couple months for this project. And if you're wondering why is the price so high, well, they've got a lot less tokens than some of these 1 quadrillion tokens that are out there. So that's why the price is as high as it is. And it's still not that high for how many tokens they've got. So there's a lot of growth potential for this project. And if you look at the number of holders, you can see it's a little bit higher than most projects I try to get into, but it's still pretty low. It's only got around 11,000 holders, and esports has the potential to be huge. What number of holders is possible? A lot. Think about how many people play esports. It's a pretty big business, and linking tokens with it is kind of exciting because that's a lot of potential growth for this project. And you can see here 40% burned right there. So how'd they do? And this looks a lot worse than it really is. And actually it could look a lot worse just because of the team not being on their website right now. But I kept that the way that it was because I know that the team's doxxed. They just did a new update on their website, and for some reason that didn't make it through the update process. I know that an F sounds really bad, but let's talk about what this means. So let's go through this thing. Is the website visually appealing? Yes, it looks good. It looks great. Spelling, grammar. So I did see some small stuff, but very minor. It's not normally what I would say is a discrepancy, but there is some minor stuff on there. that somebody that's really reading in depth is probably going to identify, and I emailed it to the team. I suspect that that'll get fixed pretty quick. So by the time you're watching this, you probably won't even find it. Website errors, I didn't see any. Now, if the tech rate was supposed to link to an actual audit, or the certic was supposed to link to an actual audit, but the certic's searchable, so that would have popped up. The team was listed, so again, I left that there. They do have a contact method. It's in the swap. So if you go into the swap, there's a chat now, but what it does is it opens up the Discord. They used to have a contact thing built directly into it. That's actually what I'm looking for. So I'm actually going to switch this to a no, because they don't currently have a contact option. I don't consider Discord, Telegram, and social media to be a contact. What I'm looking for is kind of what they had before, which was a chat box. Now, when I tried it, the chat box didn't work. I'm not even really looking for that, because I suspect that costs a lot of money to maintain. Really what I'm looking for is an email or a web-based form, some way to get in contact with the team if there's a problem, a suggestion. You know, for example, that the website's got some issues on it. Well, who are you going to contact? That would be good information to put into a web-based form, or to have some sort of an email that is monitored. It just gives your investors an opportunity to get in contact with you about any issues they're having. And that is great for tokens to have, and there's quite a few that have that right now. I know it's definitely possible for projects to maintain that. Security audit is not listed, so again, that's why there's a lot of points taken away, and that's why they're in the F category. Is the price listed? Yes. Market cap, how to buy? Yes. And a lot of projects, how to buy is a no. And again, the audit score, there isn't one, so you're talking 130 points right off the top. If they had just the audit done and listed, they'd probably be right around the C mark. But what you're going to see down here is they don't have a galaxy score. And what does the galaxy score tell us? It's basically the social presence, you know, how much activity there is. They don't have that right now. They're not on Lunar Crush to pull a score. Nobility token, it looks like maybe the Twitter space is on there, but the actual token itself isn't. That is why that's a 0. Now, if I had that on there, plus the audit, plus the development team, they're probably sitting at a pretty solid B with those items, because the rest of the website and the rest of the project itself looks really strong. It's got a lot of real strong fundamentals, but those are big risk factors. And I'm going to say that the team is doxxed, because they just didn't make it through that website. So I'm not as concerned about that risk factor as I'm about the security audit, because that's a big issue. Again, I've personally lost money because a project didn't have a security audit and they got hacked. And that happens all the time. That's why I put a lot of emphasis on that. Roadmap, yes, they've got a roadmap, and it's one of the better ones. It's a very well-designed roadmap. Do they have a white paper? Yes. Is it current? No, but they have a plan to make it current. And right now you can't look at it even if you wanted to, because it's not available on their current designed website. But people in Discord do have the information, and we'll forward to you if you want to take a look at it. And I will put the link to that in the description as well, just to make it easier for you if you want to take a look at it. But since it's based off of the old design for the website and old information, I wouldn't count on it being very valuable over just looking at the website, at least not right now. I like the web-based designs. Part of me prefers PDF just because I can download it, I can highlight it, and it makes it easier for doing these videos because I can navigate to my highlights and emphasize those points. But the web-based allows for easier update, expansion, and changes over time, so I can understand why they want to do it that way. And a lot of big projects are doing it that way because it's just easier to maintain. And apologize, you probably can hear my dog in the background. He's sleeping, and he's kind of loud. And as far as spelling and grammar, I didn't see any big issues there. Again, the development team is known. They do have a professional team. Do they have a use case? Yes, they have a token. They have plans for a blockchain. They have plans for NFTs. They didn't mention a wallet, exchange. They already have a swap built in. They do talk about games. They don't have any software, country recognition, or legal tender. That's actually not bad for how old this project is because they've already got the integrated swap and they've got the token, but they've also got plans for these other things. So that gives a lot of potential for this project. They've got a decent number of holders. Now remember, this is based off of Bitcoin. So in order to actually get a percentage, you have to have a lot of holders, and new projects don't necessarily have that. But I did take that into consideration when I built out these ratios. That isn't necessarily going to hold them back from, this isn't a 90 to 100A type scenario. That's not how I built this thing. 10,000, it still results in a really low number over here. And that kind of level sets all the projects. And I've had plenty of Bs. I've never had an A, but it's not necessarily because of this. It really comes down to some of the utility, plus some of these other factors as well. Dedicated YouTube channels, I think it went a little high for actually how many they've got, but they've got some really strong YouTubers that are behind this project. They don't necessarily have a lot, but they've got some YouTubers that have pretty large audiences. They are active on Twitter and Discord. As far as their target audience, esports is pretty big. It's got a pretty big audience, and you saw that they're talking about gaming as well, the tournaments. They've got a lot of things going on with this project, so I gave them a solid 20 out of 20 for the target audience, just because it's a huge grouping of people that they're really looking at. It's a large audience, and that gets you to the 187 out of 568. It's an F, but here's the way to look at this again. It's a risk assessment. What is the risk? Not even a security audit. If you invest into it and they get hacked and you lose all your money, I think you'd agree with me, that was a pretty high risk. So it's good to know what you're getting into before you invest. I've told you I'm going to invest in this project. I just don't have the money. It's a bad time of the year to start looking at projects in Christmas. It just is. There's too many things going on in Christmas time frame. I do plan on investing in this. I'm very cautious about security audits not being done. I won't necessarily invest a lot of money into this project, even if I had a lot of money to invest in it, but I will definitely invest into it. And that's really what this risk assessment tells you. It says, okay, what are the risks? What are the concerns? And is this a project I want to put 10 grand into, or is it a project I want to put $50 into? And where does it fall on that scale for you? That's the question you have to ask, and that's the risk. It's got a lot of potential utility. It doesn't have the 20% fees that we've been seeing on other projects, which is always a concern for me. I think the fees for this at 11% is probably in the realm of acceptable. Again, rewards tokens with fees, they're fairly new. That's kind of a 2021 thing. It's not entirely clear how they're going to do long term. But I think 11% is a lot more practical than 20%. So I wouldn't necessarily worry about the 11%. You know, SafeMoon's at 10%, and then they got Evergrow Coin at 14%. They've got 110,000 holders for Evergrow Coin and 3 million holders for SafeMoons. I think 11% is probably in the realm of acceptable for most investors. The way they've broken up their fees, I think, is acceptable for a lot of investors as well. They don't have a ridiculously high marketing budget. 7% going back to holders is a phenomenal amount going back to the holders. I would say this project has a lot of potential. Again, I can't give you financial advice. Aside from the security audit, I don't see this as being a really, really high risk project. I think you'll definitely profit from it if you invest in it, assuming that there isn't some sort of a security flaw. But that's just my opinion. Again, do your own research just to make sure that this is the project you're interested in investing in. If you decide to invest, it seems like it could be a lot of potential in this project. Well, that's all I wanted to cover for today. Hopefully you found this content helpful. Let me know in the comments, did you invest in Nobility token? If you didn't, why not? If you did, what was it about the project that made you invest in it? Until next time, stay strong with those diamond hands.